at least, a crime against all of us. It may, once a principle is breached, and that breach of principle becomes seated in government or law, purported law, I should say, or in a pattern of conduct. The next thing you know, we're each of us stepping on each other's toes, or government is committing offenses against all of us. So when I see this title, 1.6 million households face 100 euro tax, I don't think, well, 100 euros, that's affordable. I don't think, because I don't know what it's for, even. I mean, is that a proper cost? Is a question. But an even more important question is, what are we getting for this? And the first credible answer that we can come up with is nothing, unless something new has been provided to us. So the very title of this article, and I thank these people for writing it, the very title of this article is an alarm. You haven't gotten anything, because the title of the article would say what the tax is for. This is an article about a tax which is just going to be imposed for things you are already in possession of. This is a title which bespeaks crime. And this crime comes from the same people who have perpetrated this obfuscation of the currency and have to usurp government. Which government? They have run into indebtedness by this obfuscation of the currency, which, if they are to balance the budget so that or come near saving the government from terminal costs, they have to at least reduce the costs so that the debt doesn't increase, because the mere increasing of the debt means that the costs of government will increase. And so they don't even ever give you that math, which are the very facts they're contending with. They just slap you with another tax or an increase of an existent tax. So here they're slapping you with another tax. It's not about providing you something. You already have what you have. It's about imposing further cost upon you at the behest of preserving the underlying crime of the obfuscation of the currency. This comes right back directly to this same crime against us. So you have 1.6 million households face a 100 euro tax. Doesn't say what for. I'll read this article, it's short. A 100 euro household tax to hit more than 1.5 million homes has been denounced as a burden too far on cash-strapped citizens already at breaking point. Now, what, do I ask you, is that breaking point comprised of but this obfuscation of the currency, which, as I've said for 43 years, inherently, irreversibly, and therefore terminally multiplies falsified indebtedness to a purported banking system which merely publishes evidence of our promissory obligations to each other. The first sentence that I read was enough to make me want to learn about mathematically perfected economy if I didn't already know about it. But that's just me. Most homes across Ireland are to face the flat rate charge from January, with the threat of a further €10 fine for every month the payment is late. Not only are they going to pose it, they're going to scare you into paying it. by further threat of bankrupting you for not paying it. You know how I would pay this? I'd be writing out pieces of paper. We'll pay to the bearer on demand. 100 euros. Sign your name to it. If they refuse to take it, you record the crime against you. You ask them how they issued the pieces of paper that they claim we owe them. And that relates directly right back to this Bank of England Freedom of Information Act, which this bastard Norman claims is unintelligible. You tell me if that's unintelligible. Environment Minister Phil Hogan said he understood people are already suffering under a slew of levies, charges, and interest rate hikes, but insisted he had no other option. I've got to stop on this interest rate hikes. I mean, who in their right mind would raise interest on people if they weren't meaning to scare the crap out of you into paying what you shouldn't be paying at all? You know, you don't do that when people are at the brink of terminal failure unless you are hell-bent on crime. These people are criminals. Raising interest rates, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Jones. You know, you couldn't make your house payment, so we're going to raise your interest rates and make it more impossible for you to pay your house payments or to ever catch up. Because we want to scare the hell out of the neighborhood because, frankly, we know once a person goes under our system, there's no helping them. You're going down. You're drowning, Mr. Jones. But we're going to scare the hell out of everyone else from falling behind on their payments. Because, Mr. Jones, you're going to disappear after a while. You'll be a street person. You catch pneumonia this winter. And, you know, our statistics are you don't have long to complain. It's not a problem for us. So he says he has no other option. Environment Minister Phil Hogan. Environment Minister. Why would an environment minister be imposing a tax? You know, all right, so he says he insists that he has no other option. Quote, he quotes him, "I'd prefer not to be introducing any charges." Sure, buddy. You know, it's not a matter of preference. You know, government is not about preference. It's about principle. And you never, 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 never violate your vital principles. Never. 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 You do that and you don't have government, which is what he's really saying when he says, I'd prefer. In other words, I don't have what it takes to stand by the people. I'm casting them into the lion's den of the bankers. I'd prefer not to be introducing any charges. Huh. Yeah, you're a friend of us. You know, like you're even one of us. For your own paycheck, you throw the rest of us down there. But I'm obliged, he says, because we have ceded our economic sovereignty. Whew. That's an admission. We have ceded our economic sovereignty. Now let's talk about sovereignty, and I don't like what most people have to say about sovereignty. But sovereignty is something that each of us naturally are. When Thomas Jefferson penned the Declaration of Independence, he spoke about inalienable rights. Inalienable. That's what sovereignty means. No one can take sovereignty from you. Sure, they can deny you of it. But sovereignty is our very right to just life. We can be denied justice. We can be subjected to involuntary servitude. We can be subjected to this imposition of obfuscation of our own promissory obligations to each other, a falsification, an obfuscation, a purposed obfuscation of our own contracts to each other. We can be the victims of crime. But never, never, never can anyone ever remove our right to sovereignty, because if we don't have that, we don't have anything. Sovereignty is our right to live justly amidst each other. So, Environment Minister Phil Hogan says he understood people are already suffering under a slew of levies, charges, and interest rate hikes, but insisted he had no other option. What a crock. The other option was to say no, and all of the arguments line up on that side of the equation. No is the only way. You're not providing the people anything further for this additional tax. If you do this, how many additional taxes are warranted by the breach of principle? Unlimited. But why do they exist? Because the obfuscation of the currency has multiplied the costs of private life and public government beyond even the hope of continuing to service them. And he says his only option, nonetheless, is to impose those costs upon us. No, 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 no. He has no right. He has no authority. Have you yourselves ever given up authority to concede your economic sovereignty, not just to the European Union and International Monetary Fund, as he's claiming you have, but to this obfuscation of the currency? Who in their right mind would ever have done that? Absolutely no one. He has no authority. He has no authority under a republic, and he has no authority under this larger government to which you have never conceded this authority to obfuscate the currency. He's acting on behalf of the banking system to continue the perpetration of the crime, to impose further costs upon you, which aren't even associated with the provision of commensurable further value. He's simply imposing costs. This is not only a crime, it's a crime of this obfuscation of the currency. He says, quote, "I'd prefer not to be introducing any charges. I'd prefer. But I'm obliged because we have ceded our economic sovereignty as part of the European Union / International Monetary Fund agreement to bring in a property tax," he said. Admitting the tax could be fair, he said it was a temporary 2-year measure ahead of a property tax based on a value in 2014, which would be a much fairer system.